It's week 9, day 58 of my full-time chronic pain rehabilitation journey. I'm Jason, and today I'm going to talk about the power of observing your own mind. But first, a quick status update. I have another ketamine hangover. The joy of a ketamine trip is the next day you feel awful. And of course, I do, but I still went to the gym and I did everything I was supposed to, so I'm proud of myself. A couple of good things that happened. I noticed my own quads in the shower, so it's one of those moments when I take my clothes off and actually notice my own body. And I was standing there and I looked down and it's like, I've got leg muscles. It was awesome. So I can tell that I'm actually growing muscle. I don't know why I told you that, but it was just one of those things. I'm like, yes, it's working. And my personal trainer paid me a compliment. He said that for most clients he's ever worked with, like I'd made the most progress in the least amount of time. And it was so meaningful to me because that day he was pushing me hard. And I just kind of teared up because I wanted that validation so badly. I knew how hard I was working and I just wanted someone else to say it. You are pushing really hard. You're giving your all. I notice. And he did. It was fantastic. I also have another personal best to tell you about. Also for the decline squat, I went from 14 reps at 315 pounds up to 11 reps at 330. So that was the day he pushed me, and we upped the weight on my leg exercises quite a bit, and I tolerated it, which is great. And then the only other piece of status information I want to share with you is I made some dietary changes based on my personal trainer's recommendation, and I decided to backtrack on them. I'm going to explain why in a future video, but basically that change violated my long-term goals that I have for nutrition and some of my principles, and so I just felt like it wasn't worth it. And I'll explain my reasoning in another video sometime. All right, before going on to the topic of the day, I have a quick tip. I'm going to include a simple recipe for a protein shake that I use all the time that's pretty good, that I've been using to supplement and get enough protein in my diet to make sure my workouts yield maximum muscle. All right, on to the topic of the day, which is observing your own mind. So over the last, we're on 58 now, day 58. Over the last 57 days or so, I have been observing my own mind through meditation in various locations. Sometimes I do it in the hot tub before I get in the pool. Sometimes it's in the dry sauna while I'm stretching. Sometimes it's in the cold tub. And I get a chance to kind of reflect on my own behavior, sometimes even in the pool when I'm swimming. So it's a powerful thing, and I didn't realize how powerful it was until I started observing myself, as noticing that there were certain behaviors that I did that I didn't want to continue doing. And I have some examples. And what it did is it made me curious. I wasn't really judgmental. I wasn't judging myself like, oh, that's a horrible thing to do. It's just, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? Do I want to be doing that? I just asked myself these questions. So it was more of a curiosity exercise than a judgmental exercise. Did you notice that I'm stuttering today? It's bothering me. It's because I'm compromised from the ketamine. Anyway, here are the examples I've got. So I noticed early on that when somebody would swim next to me when I was in the pool, I had this impulse to swim faster or longer or harder. And so I took a step back at one point and went, do I really want to do that? And the answer was no. And so I actually adapted my behavior. I do not change the way I swim based upon someone being in the pool next to me, ever. Another one's kind of funny. When a beautiful woman's nearby and I'm weightlifting, I kind of feel the impulse to either lift harder, longer, add more weight, something stupid like that. It's kind of funny. It's stereotypical guy thing. I think you call it peacocking. Anyway, I realized I don't really want to be doing that either, so I do not change my weightlifting one iota, depending on who's next to me. It could be Angelina Jolie or whoever you can think of that's really hot. They could walk by and I wouldn't do anything different. At least I hope I wouldn't. All right, the other thing I did, and this was less impulsive and less in the moment, but when my personal trainer suggested changing my diet, I kind of just went along with it. I didn't really do a lot of research. I just wanted to do whatever he instructed. That was me being the learner. But I realized after the fact that sometimes my aim to please or desire to be agreeable with people is a problem. I'm just a little too accepting, and so I should have just taken a step back and said, you know what, tell me what you want me to do. I'll go look into it, I'll research it, and get back to you. In retrospect, that would have been better, but I kind of learned after the fact that I didn't really want to do it, and it just took me time to figure that out. So I'm going to go back and actually tell him. Up to this point, I haven't said anything. Not sure why, but I just want to kind of get my thoughts together before I tell him why I'm not going to do it. But I'm not going to do it. So that's me changing my behavior. The default way I would deal with him is different now. The other one is every once in a while, married people have marital discord, and my relationship is no different. I hope that's not divulging too much information, but there was one night recently where my wife and I were kind of having some trouble, and we both fell into sort of stereotypical patterns. When you've been married for 20 plus years, like we have, you sort of develop these ways of reacting to each other that aren't always the best. And so we fell into that pattern, and then about 3 a.m. I woke up and I realized, wait, I don't want to be that guy anymore. And so it was a little late, right? If I'd, 3 or 4 hours earlier had that revelation, I could have changed things then. But the next morning I, apologized and said I'm going to be something different because I don't want to be that guy. So just observing your own behavior, becoming curious about it, and realizing that your default reactions, the way you interact with the world, may not be what you want, and then taking action to change it is exactly what being an observer of your own mind is all about. You have to notice something and be curious about it and see that it's happening before you can make the change. Fighting for your life means being curious about your own mind. You can't change what you don't notice or you don't understand. Until next time, keep up the fight.